Good morning or good afternoon everyone. I'm Tiffany Pacheco and for today I will be going to discuss about the poem I Thank You God by Bernard Dadie. The first thing that I will be discussing is the life of Bernard Dadie. He was a Nairoan novelist, playwright, poet, and administrator, among many other senior positions. Starting in 1957, he held the post of Minister of Culture in the government of Côte d'Ivoire from 1977 to 1986. He was born on January 10, 1916 in Asini Mafia. Died at March 9, 2019. He died at his 103rd. His profession was a novelist, playwright, and poet. His nationality was Côte d'Ivoire. Another trivia about Bernard Dadie. After his schooling, he worked for 12 years at a museum in Dakar, and this opened his eyes to African folklore and traditions. He returned to Ivory Coast in 1947 and got engaged in dramatic and literary activity. This poem is translated from his publication La Ronde de Jour in 1956. He has written several plays and chronicled many dramatic pieces on African tradition and legend, including the more francophone fable Monsieur Dogini, which satirizes the social anomalies of post-colonial society. Okay, here's the example of his image of himself. Okay, first question is, why did he wrote the poem? He wrote the poem because he describes the nature of blackness and the speaker's gratitude for the strength to carry the world. The poem begins with the speaker stating that he is glad to have been made in the form that he is in. He was in because he died. Who was the speaker or the persona of the poem? The persona of the poem was Bernard Dadie himself, because he was trying to say that he's very glad to where he has been made. What does the theme say about the narrator's feelings? The speaker wants his listeners and God to know that he is proud of and thankful for his blackness. He feels no wish that his circumstances were changed or any desire to be anyone else. In I Thank You God, Dadie explains in his Black African Pride poem the internal and external. Further analysis of these two poems indicates Don's personal feelings towards God. He's very thankful because God gave him the blessings he needed in life and helped him by giving him a good fellow people in his surroundings and in his place. So now I'm going to be discussing the poem and explaining each stanzas. And first reading the poem. I give you thanks, my God, for having created me black, for having made of me the total of all sorrows, and set up upon my head 5 the world. I wear the livery of the centaur, and I carry the world since the first morning. White is a color improvised for an occasion. Black the color of all days, 10, and I carry the world since the first night. I am happy with the shape of my head, fashioned to carry the world, satisfied with the shape of my nose, 15, which should breathe all the air of the world, happy with the forms of my legs, prepared to run through all the stages of the world. I give you thanks, my God, for having created me black, 20, for having made of me the total of all sorrows. 36 words have pierced my heart, 36 brands have burned my body, and my blood all the Calvaries has reddened the snow. 25. And my blood from all the east has reddened nature, and yet I am happy to carry the world, content with my short arms, with my long legs. 30. With the thickness of my lips, I give you thanks, my God, for having created me black. White is a color of an occasion, black the color of days, and I carry the world since the morning of time. 35. And my laughter in the night brought forth day over the world. I give you thanks, my God, for having created me black. The poem is a good anthem for black pride. It satirically weaves its way around mythical, biblical, and historic tales and brings its story through. Daddy is ironically thankful here to God for having made him a bearer of the world's sorrow as a black man. This is a symbolic statement of the story, or forced service and suspension of the black race, has endured since the first morning, the line 7, and the first night, the line 10, of creation. Note that in the first chapter of the book of Genesis, the first in the Bible, God remarks that, "And there was evening and there was morning," before a day has come completion. The black man has been made the total of all sorrows, line 3, a phrase that rivals the biblical allusion to Jesus as a man of sorrows. Isaiah chapter 53, verse 3, "He was despised and rejected by men, a man of sorrows, and acquainted with disease. And as one from whom men hide their face, he was despised, and we didn't respect him." This allusion to the 53rd chapter of Isaiah is very useful in appreciating the depth of this poem, as many more references are made to that chapter. This is the strength of this poem, comparing the black man to a type of Christ, bearing the weight of the world on his head, adorned otherwise in the uniform of centaur, line 6. The mythological half-man, half-horse in the 3rd and 4th stanzas, "Daddy is proud, the shape of my head," that's line 12, and "the shape of my nose," the line 14. "The form of my legs," the line 17, and "the thickness of my lips," line 30. He is very pleased that they have been so formed to help him bear the suffering that is his curse. A most striking accession is the fact that his legs are made ready to run through all the stages of the world, and that's line 18. An agreement to the fact that in all the generations of man, the black man has been a crucial role player, leaving his prints. And the final stanza is where hope is set alight. Like in all other African dreams, Daddy claims for the second time that white is a color of an occasion, that's line 32, but black is the color of all days, line 33. He laughs in the night in line 35, and his laughter brings on the day over the world. This is it. In the darkness of his circumstances, he is able to laugh. And it is this laughter that brings strength to defeat the burden of his oppression. The biblical Christ had the last laugh after he carried in his body the sins of Daddy's world. In this victory, our black man Daddy is thankful to God for his blackness. This is a truly moving tribute to the power of blackness, poetry, and religion. The beauty of this poem lies in the 4th stanza, where Daddy talks of 36 words piercing his heart, and that's line 22. This is much like Christ on the cross, where a spear was thrust into his side. 36 brands burnt his body, line 23, and proved that he is a slave of more than one owner, liable to be trampled underfoot by all. And like Christ, his blood on all the Calvaries has reddened the snow, thus line 24. To appreciate this line, it is worth nothing that Christ was crucified on Calvary, a hill just outside the city walls of ancient Jerusalem, according to the Bible. And also, if Daddy's blood reddened the snow, then he bled in a foreign land where it snows not in Africa. This just powerfully states the crime of slavery and colonialism, dark chapters in Africa's books. Daddy lays the blame right on the snowy shores on the downstep of the white man.